Hello, hello, hello. So, it's been a while. Let's get on to a new fan fiction to read. Under the Veil by Poplasia. So I sent Poplasia a message, hoping I can release later parts, because I'm just going to release this one for now. Like, chapter 1. Yeah, this is just a weird thing. Chapter 1. The In-Between. He was again standing in the forever damned golden hallway, just waiting for the kiddo to show up. Waiting. Knowing that he was going to die. It certainly wasn't the first time. Hell, wasn't even under the hundreds at this point. He turned to the huge windows, admiring the scene with bitter dejection. Soda break. Ah, it's not that cold. Well, water break. Alright. It really was a beautiful day outside, just as he always claimed. The warm light seemed unfairly bright, so unfairly bright when he knew that what would happen, what could happen, what would happen, what already had. After all, the world was going to end. Certainly wasn't the first time. And the skeleton shook off the familiar pessimistic thoughts. This time would be different. This time, he had an idea. A plan that could fix it all. In the damn loop. Sans tugged his jacket close to him, around himself, warding off a non-existent chill. Soon. They'd be here soon. He'd gotten pretty good at telling these things. Sure enough, there's the kiddo's footsteps now. He took a deep, if unnecessary, breath. It didn't help. And then there they were. Frisk. No, not Frisk. That thing wasn't, won't ever be Frisk. Stopped several paces away, as usual. Their sins, their killing intent, their murderous soul filled the very air around the child. Sans could feel it, the strange other that he knew to be Kara, straining towards him, shoving Frisk aside and stealing their control. It was painful seeing them like this, both of them so distorted from who they were. The king and queen's adopted child, drained of everything they had been in life, left as nothing but a remorseless villain puppeteering the kiddo Sans loved like family. Thank God it's not Franz. That's pedophilia. He had been forced to watch those changes happen. Reset after reset after reset. It doesn't matter how many times. He was tired of this. Oh, Star, so tired of it all. Hey, I guess we should get this over with, huh? The golden light seems to dim. Dark shadows cloaking the hall. Sans was grinning, but there was no joy in the expression. Kara took a step forward and smiled their own not smile. Knife held in a relaxed but eager grip. They took another step. He allowed himself another glance out the window, closing his eyes, only half paying attention to the thing's approach. It's a beautiful day outside. Kara's foot came down with perhaps a hair too much force. They knew it was coming. Birds are singing, flowers are blooming. The footsteps began to speed up. On days like these, but more so this day, now that he had a chance of fixing it, he had planned to stay on the script, keep the kiddo from looking too close. Couldn't help it. But he couldn't help it. Slivers of icy light began coiling in the air around him, pulling at his fingertips. Kids like you. His words were the same, but he could tell the gathering That gathering his powers making the other uneasy. That was something new, different, dangerous. He opened his eyes and glared at them, left eye igniting in a flickering blue with a foreboding chime. Should be burning in hell. Or should be burning in hell. He grasped Kara's soul, lifting their body into the air before mercilessly slamming it into the tiled floor. They managed to dodge the bones that materialized after, only to be immediately dragged into the next sequence. More bones on all sides, caging the psycho in as he hurled them down the length of the hallway. There were gaster blasters in front of them, above, below, but of course they managed to dodge enough to remain alive. Sans watched their expression carefully, coldly pleased to see the suspicion he had inadvertently caused wiped out by the familiarity of this attack pattern. Good. He gave a spiel about strongest attacks and let Carrick take a swing at him. Didn't touch him, of course. A few mental calculations told him exactly where the strike would fall, and he had plenty of time to step aside. I always loved the look of consternation when it happened. It didn't matter how many times they missed, they were always a bit put out by it. I'm not just gonna stand there, you know. Wasn't exactly what he'd said before, but close enough. There were enough small variations timeline to timeline that it shouldn't really matter. They survived a little longer this time. For a while longer this time, wisely ignoring his offer of forgiveness, but still dying in the onslaught of rapidly shifting attack types. He couldn't ease up, but he needed them to get farther, to get to the last attack. It was the only time his plan had the slightest chance of working. But for now, their body died, the soul shattered, and then he was standing a few minutes in the past again, waiting and admiring the beautifully lit hall. Then he heard those telltale footsteps. Closed his eyes, managed not to get all glowy this time, gave his lines, and launched into the attack. They got closer, but weren't quite quick enough to when surrounded by blasters. They shattered. The fight began again. And again. And again. Sometimes Sans had to wonder if even they couldn't remember everything, couldn't recall enough of all the other times they'd fought him to gain an immediate advantage. Maybe some of it blurred together. He could say from experience that all the repetition and lifetimes worth of extra memories tended to overlap. It's not like he could easily keep track, having lost count somewhere in the mid-hundreds. He was reasonably sure Karen remembered more than Frisk, but sometimes, well, he wondered. He certainly wasn't gonna just walk up and straight up admit to knowing timelines. Hints were as far as he went on that front. He absent-mindedly dodged another slash, sending out a barrage of bones that the thing began frantically dodging. Summoned blasters began firing pure magical energy in the direction. They spun it away, landing just where he knew they would. It was now or never. His eye flashed as he caught their soul and flung them through the air, slamming their body into the floor, ceiling, walls, and columns. As his onslaught slowed, he checked Kara's HP, relieved to see it sitting firmly at 1, same as his own. This has to work. He let the thing's body drip back to the ground, releasing his hold on the soul. Kara's face lit up with demonic glee, expecting the end to come just as easily now as it always had. Sans' lines came effortlessly, burned into his memory as they were, and then he waited. They had always been an impatient sort, so when they tried to get stabbed in early, he just caught them and pushed them back. He let his shoulders droop slightly, trying not to let his fatigue catch up to him, while simultaneously pretending it did. This would be the tricky part. His plan depended on it. He just needed to die, but not. He'd be killed, but not. And on top of it all, he had to not die at the exact same moment they did. He spread his senses, magical and otherwise, and let his eye sockets slide shut. A few soul beats passed, began slowly making their way forward, careful step after careful step. He forced himself to stay relaxed. They raised their knife high, and Sans could all but see their murderous smile. The knife came down in a red arc. He dodged the first strike easily, almost literally in his sleep. Did you really think that you would be able? Sans blocked their strike, second strike with a small blaster, having it bite down on their wrist until the knife clattered to the floor. He kicked it aside. Not this time, Kara. They tensed when he spoke their name, not expecting it. I have a better idea. How about you die? His eye lit up with magic as he grabbed their souls, simultaneously calling out his own, even caught in the grip of his magic. Kara's soul, or Frisk, technically, was vibrantly colored. Splotchy mass of harsh blood and hearthworm red. His own was silvery gray, uniquely opalescent, as blue and gold lights danced under its surface. Two hearts beat softly in the air between them, and he was somewhat gratified to see real fear grimacing in the thing's red eyes. What? Time to quit, kiddo. Sans dispelled the blaster biting on the arm, but they remained frozen in place, barely able to move. They squirmed, trying desperately to lash out at them. His own soul drifted down to settle on the floor as he summoned a blaster directly overhead. Aimed down at both of them. Kara chuckled in their dark, distorted laugh. The fear he had glimpsed earlier seemingly forgotten. Oh, I didn't know you were so eager to die. It'll hit us both, Sansy. Sans smiled back and they winced as he wrenched their soul unwillingly to the ground. That's kind of the point, kiddo. Confusion flickered in their red eyes. Magical energy built up in the Gaster Blaster's maw, light sparkling through its closed teeth. He hoped to the stars there would be enough power to sustain the blast after their bodies were destroyed, enough to obliterate the souls as well. No matter. It was time to put the theory to the test. Welp, see you on the other side. Confusion became an instant of shock and disbelief, wiped out by swath of crackling blue-white energy. Everything went black as, at the same time, both souls shattered. Then Kara laughed, and laughed and laughed and laughed, and the void echoed. As the void echoed. For a moment they had been scared, scared of Sansy. How thrilling! And he knew them. Kara, he knew their name. He called them by name. Oh, they had always suspected that Sans could remember, suspected that he was at least somewhat aware of the timeline's resetting, but this was beyond their wildest hopes. Sans knew, not guessed, but actually knew what happens to everything when they finally beat him. They never did get to see him die, never saw him finally collapse into a pile of beautiful dust. He must have watched at least once, watched until the end. Then he remembered. Somehow, he had always remembered, come reset or total obliteration. How thrilling! Just think how much more fun it would be after all, tormenting someone who would remember. Sent eager shivers down their spine. The void yawned around them, empty and vast and pitch black, with another echoing chuckle. Kara summoned their determination, lit up the air around them before condensing into glowing orange options. Reset or continue. As if they even need to think twice, they reached for continue. They stopped. Then Kara noticed a faint tinge of blue on their skin. When they glanced down, their soul was gripped in a familiar light. Their breath caught. Let's see if I can make a difference now, kiddo. He wrenched them away from the pair of floating icons, spinning them roughly around so they could see their soul. All it took was a glance to confirm his second hopeful theory. Here, deep in the black void between timelines, it was clear that Kara's soul was not entirely their own. The warm red light leaking out through the staining cracks of their other's influence was everything Kara had lost. Compassion, joy, mercy, friendship. It was shining weakly, but with determination. Frisk was in there, somewhere. Sans could get them back, and through them, hopefully, everything could be fixed. Power surging from his soul lit his eye with a glow fiercer and more driven than Kara had ever seen before. They managed to break his hold with a determined shove, but they were shaken, badly shaken. Red eyes, but glowing, burning blue. Kara's grip on their knife became painfully white-knuckled as they tried to stop shaking. It was an uneasy laugh, more for their own benefit than anything else. Difference? As if, what are you gonna do? Try to keep me from continuing or resetting for the rest of eternity? Sans said nothing, but the intelligent glint in his eyes sent another shudder of apprehension down their spine. Sent a wave of bones in the direction, trying to catch them off guard again. That won't solve anything, Sans! They spat out his name with vindictive pleasure, fighting forever, like a lazy boneslet. Like you could even keep it up for an hour. You have a point. With old of this work, I'm already feeling bone tired. He shrugged, winking his unlit eye in the way that never failed to infuriate them. His puns were rewarded with an annoyed hiss and a slightly more reckless lunge. The knife tip missed his ribcage by a hair, snagging and cutting off a piece of his jacket's zipper before he teleported out of the way. He didn't teleport far. In fact, he flickered back into existence directly to Kara's left, slipping inside their guard, reaching with both his magic and his hands, Sans slit. Slammed his bony palm into the stained soul. Frisk was blasted away, skidding to a stop just a few feet from the floating icons. Wisps of color, red and blue, drifted briefly in the area around the small human before silently disintegrating. Pushed themselves upright, disoriented and confused. And we're stopping it there. For part 1 of chapter 1. Next video is going to be short. Okay? Thank you. This was Arcane Warlock signing off.